Candlelight. Mascara, the 2nd of January. Paved roads shiny with rain, tree-lined as they often are in France or, in Italy, in the Veneto. Signposts everywhere. Occasional villages of one-story houses with large squares, adorned in the center with obelisks or steles or monuments placed in memory of local battles. Cast iron fountains built in the Usines du Rhône, 1913, signs of primary schools, for example the École Mixte Ali Baba. Through the windows one sees little heads of Arab and black children sitting on desks. Other than the beginning of Africa, here Europe continues. If one did not see Baraccans and Fute and a few rare mosques, one would think one was in any plain of Italy or France. 370 kilometers from Algiers to Mascara, a 7-hour drive if all goes well. It rains at the 100th kilometer, it rains at the 200th so intensely that the asphalt seems to boil. On the sides of the slowly rising road, orange and mandarin trees, orchards of all kinds, low-hanging vines. Every now and then, a few large wine warehouses, a few canned food factories with their smokestacks billowing smoke, a few deserted Algiers-Oran railway stations. The temperature is just above zero in Orleansville, a town that passes for being the hottest in Algeria, reaching a high of 52 degrees. We pass through the town without stopping, barely making time to read a few street signs: Place Victor Hugo, Avenue Garnet, Rue d'Islay, Brasserie des Messageries, La Petite Chaussée, catching a glimpse of a few Exposition Universelle 1900-style buildings in the rain. Around 1500 hours, Mascara, a town that looks like a poor suburb of Algiers, where 1,000 people are waiting for us at the petrol station set up for the Rollier participants. Specially for the Southern Cross and the Climanie, a major oil company has undertaken to equip each refueling point with a special 80-octane light petrol. The petrol is there, but sealed in drums. We have to remove the emergency pump from the ship and use it. All in all, the uncomfortable job takes us an hour. As it gets dark and starts to rain again, we are driven to Hotel G, the best in the place. Sad, funereal hotel. The lobby consists of a corridor as narrow and high as 4 rooms, a dozen meters, railings run on each floor. One can strangely hear the voices of those calling from above echoing and echoing. I realize that such architecture finds its good reason in the high temperatures usual for the locality, but in today's cold weather it is gloomy, reminiscent of a prison yard. Not least because, the bad weather having broken the power lines, the hall is almost completely dark tonight, lit by the light of the only candle the hotel owner holds with one hand. 4 or 5 Arab servants huddle around our luggage, creating fantastic shadows on the walls. While waiting for dinner, we take a few steps into town, walking along the walls to protect ourselves from the water. Suddenly, 3 or 4 platoons of soldiers of the Foreign Legion pass in front of us, coming out of an alley. They march at perfect cadence, soaked in water, their typical veils glued to their shoulders and nape of the neck by the driving rain. In the act of disappearing at the end of a street, they start singing a soldier song in chorus. They must, poor souls, make it clear to the colonel who is waiting for them in the barracks that they are coming back very fresh from the exercise, full of esprit de corps. Having lost their song, their heavy smell of sweat continues to waft down the street. Dinner by candlelight. We melancholically drink 5 or 6 bottles of Grands Vins d'Algérie. These wines have beautiful color and extraordinary bouquet, but they fade on the palate, very little remains. In the hotel rooms, a great wind comes in through the bumpy windows, the sheets fly. Tomorrow morning, we wake up and leave at dawn. We would like not to stop at Ainsfroid and arrive in Colombachar in the evening. We could then spend 24 whole hours there instead of leaving after 12. Snow. Colombachar, the 3rd of January. At dawn it snows. 4 fingers of snow already cover the asphalt. The road climbs slightly for dozens and dozens of deserted kilometers, the layers turn into icicles that beat against the crystals. The cultivated land, already sparse, gradually disappears and gives way to a terrain that, under the light blanket of snow, is guessed to be steppe-like in nature. The road runs straight for kilometers and kilometers. We are on the Atlas Plateau, around 1,100 meters above sea level. It is snowing again. The snow reaches perhaps 25 centimeters thick on the road, which is now no longer asphalted but still with a consistent and even surface. Something black, moving in the distance, reveals itself shortly afterwards to be a group of camels with humps ridiculously covered in snow. The rumble of the engine frightens the animals and makes them discard their animals. Snow can be seen falling from their humps. Further on, after perhaps 3 hours of marching, a sign hovers nailed above a slender pole. Fin de la route, commencement de la piste, it says. 2 lorries are standing there, stuck, their radiators stuck in the deep snow. What to do? The bridge of our cars is fitted with a device that should allow us to continue, and indeed we pull away slowly, with unexpected jumps from time to time. The windshield wipers squeak groaningly, producing a noise of heavy panting of human chests. 200 meters further on, in the thick swirl of snow, another truck is stationary, a hooded man is looking under the bonnet. We find ourselves in the middle of a real blizzard. Memories of similar scenes seen during the Russian campaign come back to my mind, memories of trucks stuck in the snow along step tracks. From jump to jump we find the track again, we manage to proceed on it alternating between first and second gear. Virgin snow for about 2 hours and then, as we descend in altitude, rain. We run over reddish terrain, sometimes step-like and sometimes rocky. The track now rises and now falls like a roller coaster, now it stretches horizontally for kilometers and kilometers, barely distinguishable by the mounds of stones that mark its path. Not a house, not a soul. Around 1 o'clock, Ainsfra, a few palm trees, a few rows of whitewashed, low, windowless houses. The last of the houses in the settlement is pointed out to us as that of the commissioner in charge of leading us to the petrol station, but the commissioner is not at home and we wait for him for an hour after unleashing a few Arab boys in search of him. At the only window of this house, ajar, every now and then a bust of a woman appears, her face pale, black glasses over her eyes, her lips scarlet red. Who knows with what eyes she looks at us, who knows what she is thinking. We cannot help but, given the woman's attitude and given the place of exile, make suppositions that are perhaps too romantic, that we believe her to be a vague prisoner, segregated from the world awaiting freedom. A sudden crunching of gravel under nearby footsteps causes the woman to disappear altogether, for good, and a shutter silently descends to close the window. A moment later the commissioner arrives, his were the footsteps on the gravel. He is a small man in stature, sandy-faced, melancholic. "Follow me," he says laconically, getting behind the wheel of a jeep. "We're going to the barracks of the Foreign Legion." We pass through a gate guarded by a legionnaire, cross a courtyard bordered by high barbed wire fences, reach a second. Deserted both, arid with silence. The wind has accumulated mounds of sand in the corners and along the walls, faint gusts barely play there. At the filling station, located in a third courtyard, we learn that our barrels of 80-octane petrol have been half used by a Rolye participant who passed through here yesterday. 2 or 3 legionnaires operate the pumps, silent at first, but we can clearly see that they have homegrown faces, homegrown eyes, homegrown smiles. One is from Venice, his name is Tossato, the second from Milan, the third from Naples. But the Milanese and Neapolitans, though asked, do not want to give their names. "We are here," they say, and that's it. They look at the cars above and below, touch them, tap their knuckles against the metal sheets as if to test their sturdiness. Ah, they observe, they are indeed Italian cars. We have a short breakfast in a kind of shabby cafe restaurant whose owner seems to have fallen here from one of those maison closes once opened in France. Near our table, some Arabs and Negroes speak a French that is clear enough, but evidently learnt from the garrison troops. "Oui, mon vieux," they say. Always mon vieux, very frequent the argot verbs c'est murder and c'est de murder. Mon vieux, ici je m'emmerde, mon vieux, I have the unwelcome impression that I have just joined the Foreign Legion. 6 hours, we take, from Ainsfort to Colombes. A very rutted track, all potholes, all reddish gravel, all hairpin bends to avoid frequent large dune springs with no visible order. One has the impression of walking on the bed of a stream with no direction. Not a bush, not a hut, not a sign of life. On our right, every now and then, the ballast of the narrow-gauge Oran-Colombia Railway emerges, the first section of a utopian trans-Saharan railway that may never be completed. As evening falls, the track becomes less rugged and winding, the railway runs parallel to it a few dozen meters away. But we are not lucky enough to meet or pass a train. In fact, there are only 2 runs per week. It is 2200 hours when we arrive at Colombia. We mistakenly enter an open gate and realize as soon as we are inside that we are in the courtyard of a military hospital. Lucky chance, an officer immediately rushes in and tells us that the organizers of the race have planned for us to spend the night in the infirmary of the military hospital, the officer's room. We are led into a smaller cloistered courtyard, entirely paved with majolica tiles. In the middle is a gushing fountain from which water gently gurgles down into a basin. A corporal nurse issues orders to some sleepy, ill-tempered Arab soldiers. "Veet, veet, veet," he incites. After a few minutes, the Arab soldiers bring in mattresses, throw them onto the metal bed frames. The temperature is finally mild, equal to that of advanced May in Europe. For a short time, from inside the rooms, the French corporal can be heard swearing at the Arab soldiers. Dim lamps hang from the ceilings, closed by wire nets. Dust on the metal bedside tables, medicine wrappings in the drawers. Finally, silence, only the silvery sound of the gushing fountain can be heard. Clear, intensely starry sky.
Many thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share this audiobook.